and flat ridge, about 2,000 square meters. Standing on the sky-gazing cliff, you have a wide field of vision, looking up, observing the sun, moon and stars, witnessing the position changing of the stars. Looking down, you can see the sea of clouds and surging billows, the beautiful mountains and rivers. Looking far into the distance, the haze is gorgeous, magnificent and boundless, and you feel soothed and relaxed. Looking closely, the mountains are verdant with layers of emerald green, the silver waterfalls are flying and gurgling, and make people feel refreshing. The sky-gazing cliff is the most famous scenic spot in the 10,000-year world. Celestials with profound cultivation bases often fly here to absorb the essence of heaven and earth. They cultivate their sentiments, discuss sutra and Tao, and learn from others' strong points. Of the 100 million celestials in the 10,000-year world, only 8,000 of them can reach this place, the rest all cannot. Why? Because to get here you must rely on flying, and climbing is impossible, because there are no branches to climb and no roads to go. Celestials who arrive in the 10,000-year world for the first time do not have the ability to fly and must walk on the ground. Only after about 10,000 years of self-improvement can they fly 3 feet above the ground, and only after 20,000 years of self-cultivation can they fly above the lofty mountains and high ranges. To fly at an altitude of 80,000 meters requires 30,000 years of self-cultivation. Zigui, Danjing, Biao, Xiaoxia, Hanliang, Sangqing, Ishi, and Qiantong are the 8 celestials who reside in Fengming Ridge of the Hualing Mountains. The ridge is 30,000 kilometers away from Tongtian Peak. Today, all 8 celestials have cultivated their ability to fly up to 80,000 meters high. They exchanged smiles and then they soared into the sky, gradually rising to 10,000 meters in the air. They then flew along the Hualing Mountains. The mountains slid away behind them, and the winding rivers disappeared one by one, layers and lumps of clouds and mists receded one after another. The feeling of flying is so wonderful and comfortable, breaking through the 3-dimensional time and space and entering the 4-dimensional time and space feels like breaking free from a cage and being free and graceful. Words fail to capture the experience. Zigui exclaimed, 10,000 years within the cocoon, transforming flesh and bone, and once emerged as a butterfly soaring high. Without the connection with the divine, akin to double wings, how could we ride the rainbow today? Biao echoed, after countless body training sessions, my spirit becomes awakened. Through spiritual cultivation, I am able to absorb invisible energy. Embryonic breathing is activated, revealing itself as a mystical power bestowed by the greatest creator. Han Liang also felt an urge and said, for 30,000 years of building the foundation, refining the essence, transforming qi and the spirit, perfecting the structure to be in one with the Tao, begin realizing how profound Tao is. After flying for about 10,000 kilometers, the Hualing Mountains finally vanished behind them, and an endless vast grassland lay ahead. This is the most famous Marj Sangqin grassland in the 10,000-year world. Here, horses gallop, herds of deer relax, antelopes frisk, bison gallop, zebras play, camels lie idly, goshawks circle vigorously, gulls spread their wings freely, cranes and storks pose grandly, skylarks sing and dance, trumpet vines bloom all over the field, and meadow lilies dot the landscape like stars. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet blend together, resembling colorful pearls embedded in the green grassland. The blue sky, clean air, gentle breeze, and warm sunshine create a poetic and vibrant scene. Danjing was so happy she lost track of time. She let go of her voice and sang, beautiful Marj Sangqin, you are the garden of life, you are like a charming fairy, make me look forward to for so long, wandering on your vast chest, bathed in the flowery scenery of love, I want to throw myself into your arms and suck the fragrance of your tenderness to my heart's content. Listening to the song of Danjing, everyone couldn't help but land on the grassland. The 4 female celestials Zigui, Biao, Xiaoxia, and Ishi danced a rainbow dance on the green grass. The 4 female celestials are all about 1.76 meters tall, neither fat nor thin, with faces like peach blossoms, eyebrows like crescent moons, bright eyes and white teeth, cherry-red lips, black hair like flowing clouds, heart-shaped chins, ruddy skin, long arms and legs, high breasts, waists like weeping willows, plump buttocks, and beautiful and curvy figures. While glancing, their eyes convey emotions and captivate the soul, while dancing, they are exceedingly charming and enchanting. Their supple bodies are like tender willow branches in spring, their tenderness flows like waterfalls. They are over 30,000 years old but look like young girls in love, with profound Taoist cultivation, they behave like young maidens. Like buds just blooming, like flames burning, every movement is akin to goddesses scattering flowers, and their waist twists resemble dragons flying and phoenixes dancing. As the celestials of the 10,000-year world are all naked, their dance postures are particularly captivating, leaving endless afterthoughts, and every posture emits energy, presenting the delightful serenity of seclusion. The four male celestials, Danjing, Hanliang, Sangqing, and Qiantong, gradually enter the wonderland while admiring the dance, kneeling on the ground, and shedding tears of gratitude, as if riding the clouds and fog to the palace of bliss, or like a quiet and cold pool, motionless, with strands of energy swirling in their bodies. Waves of joy overwhelm every cell, beyond words. Come and chase me. Come and catch me. A clear and melodious shout and the subsequent laughter resounded on the grassland from far to near. Zigui and others stopped dancing and shaded their eyes with their hands and saw 6 beams of white light on the horizon in the distance approaching like lightning. Han Liang opened his throat and made a trumpet shape with his hands and shouted, "Hey! Please come here." Suddenly 6 beams of white light flew to them, it turned out to be 2 female celestials. Zigui took the lead in responding, "We come from Fengming Ridge of Hualing Mountain and are heading to Tongtian Peak of Moyan Mountain. When we passed by here and saw the picturesque scenery, we couldn't help but stop and be captivated. Brothers and sisters, what are you all doing here?" Upon learning that the 8 celestials were heading to Tongtian Peak, Saiying and the others realized that they had already attained the highest level of oneness with Tao achievable by a celestial in the 10,000-year world. A good karma was hard to find, Naji replied promptly, "We are 6 celestials from the Taiji Palace in Shaoxiang Ridge, Tiandan Mountain, which is 200 miles away from here at the end of the grassland. Today we came out to practice flying on the grasslands. Currently, we can only fly 8 feet above the ground. We are fortunate to meet esteemed celestials like you today. We hope you will stay at the Taiji Palace for a few days and impart your celestial teachings to us." As soon as Saiying finished speaking, she grabbed Zigui's hand and exclaimed, "You must come with us. You must." Zigui cast a loving glance at everyone and had already ascended 8 feet into the air, flying forward arm in arm with Saiying. The rest of the celestials joyfully took flight and followed suit. In the blink of an eye, 14 male and female celestial beings had already flown to the foot of Tiandan Mountain. Flying forward for 60 miles along the mountain's base, they arrived at Shaoxiang Ridge. Here clouds billowed and steamed, the purple mist lingering, the mountain flowers blooming, the fruits fragrant, and the clear stream rushing. 100 kinds of birds playing and chasing among the branches in the forest, the sound of water, the wind, the swaying of the branches and the graceful chirping of the birds merged into a symphony of heaven. Landing from the clouds, the celestials walked up along a mountain path. Along the path, they saw little squirrels jumping among the branches, koala bears hugging the tree trunk and tilting their heads to watch, long-tailed monkeys hanging upside down on the branches and swinging, and elk drinking water leisurely in the mountain stream. After a while, the celestials came to Taiji Palace. Stood outside the gate of Taiji Palace, the breeze is gentle, cool, and refreshing, the scenery is beautiful, which nourishes the heart and pleases the eyes. The Taiji Palace is back to Shaoxiang Mountain, facing the Natsang River, with the winding Tiandan Mountains on the left and the Yingxiao Pool on the right surrounded by mountains. It is truly a geomantic treasure land with the vermilion bird to the front, the black tortoise to the back, the azure dragon to the left, and the white tiger to the right. Especially the Natsang River, which is like a white silver chain meandering and floating on the opposite vast Yaniriyuan plain, like a dragon moving vigorously, like a silver bridge hanging on the river. Sangqin couldn't help but praise sincerely, auspicious Xin Shaoxiang Ridge, geomantic treasure Taiji Palace, created by nature with extremely fine craftsmanship, blissful sensations arise on this fairy land. Everyone, please enter the Taiji Palace and rest for a while. Sijia greeted courteously. Zigui and others entered the Taiji Palace one after another. One could see that the Taiji Palace was as bright as day, and the 8 treasures of splendor glittered with soft light. There were 8 cushions in the center of the palace, which were placed according to the 8 directions of Qian, Kun, Sun, Dui, Zhen, Zhen, Li, Can, which are not only a place to rest, but also a place to practice. It turned out that there were also 8 male and female celestials living in this Taiji Palace. Besides Saiying, Dama, Sola, Jifan, Naji, Sijia, there are also Kunhi and Bairue. Looking at the expressions in the eyes of Zigui and the others, sensitive Dama immediately cleared their doubts. Kunhi and Bairue went to explore the mysterious gorge, and they will be back in a few days. The 8 treasures of splendor mentioned above consist of sunlight diamond, jadeite blue, agate jade, amethyst glaze, emerald, cat's eye yellow, olive red, and crystal. People who have read The 10,000-Year World know that the planet, the 10,000-year world, is 16 in the Earth, and there are 16 stars of different densities arranged equidistantly in the sky, which divides the 10,000-year world into 16 zones with different luminosity. One of the zones is the dark night zone, which is eternal night, and it is precisely this dark night zones that accommodates countless kinds of gemstones in various forms, and is shining in the dark night. Therefore, all the celestials of the 10,000-year world will come here to collect and carry gems in this zone to decorate the caves where they live. The gems can not only illuminate the caves, but also be absorbed essence from, and make the caves colorful and dreamy. The flight of more than 10,000 kilometers drained the vitality of Zigui and the other 7 celestials, necessitating an urgent replenishment of energy. Saiying and the other 5 celestials also felt fatigued. The 4 celestials Sola, Jifan, Naji, and Sijia walked out of the cave and picked some delicious peaches, delicate grapes, sweet melons, and moist stamens soon after. They presented these fruits respectfully to Zigui and the other 7 celestials. Zigui and the others looked at the melons and fruits and smiled. You can use it. We only need 8 cushions for a while. It turns out that the food of the celestials in the 10,000-year world varies according to the depth of their cultivation. Celestials who have just arrived need to eat hard fruits such as walnuts and dates, while those who have been there for over 10,000 years can eat soft fruits such as peaches and grapes. Celestials that are more than 20,000 years old do not eat fruits but only drink mineral-rich mountain spring water, while celestials over 30,000 years old no longer eat any tangible substances, but directly absorb the brilliance of the sun and moon, and the vital energy of heaven and earth. While Saiying, Dama, Swola, Jifan, Naji, were eating fruits, they watched carefully as the 8 celestials took their seats on the cushions with the 8 trigrams directions. The 4 male celestials Danyang, Sangqin, and Xiangtong sit on the location of Qian and Zhen, and the 4 female celestials Zigui, Bia, and Ishi sit on the direction of Dui, Zhen, Can. They were all sitting cross-legged with their left and wrapped, and the female celestials folded their hands below their navel while the male celestials slightly bent his palms, placing them lightly on their knees with palms. With their eyes and mouth closed, attention fixed, and breath regulated, they entered the state of fetal aspiration, looking like a sculpture. Internally, following their mind's guidance, a stream of essential qi entered their governing vessel through their Baihui, Sishinkang acupoints, going through and absorbed by the large intestine meridian of the hand Yangming, the small intestine meridian of the hand Taiyang, the triple energizer meridian of the hand Shaoyang, the stomach meridian of the foot Yangming, the bladder meridian of the foot Taiyang, and the gallbladder meridian of the foot Shaoyang, and the impure qi was expelled from their Shangyang, Shaochong, Jin, and Zutongu acupoints. Another stream of essential qi flowed from their Huiyin and Yongquan acupoints into their conception vessel, absorbing the essence and energy through the Han Taiyin lung meridian, Han Shaoyin heart meridian, Han Juyin pericardium meridian, Foot Taiyin spleen meridian, Foot Shaoyin kidney meridian, and Foot Juyin liver meridian, and expelling impure qi from their Zhongchong, Shaoshang, Yinbai, etc. acupoints. At this moment, the energy from the confluence of the conception and governor vessel, Ren and Du meridians, converged and spouted from the 4 acupoints of Haiquan, Juchuan, Yuyue, and Jinjin, filling their mouths with saliva. The saliva continuously flowed through their esophagus into their abdomen, and in a short while, their dantian was filled with energy, their fatigue was gone, their spirit reappeared, and their light of nature was complete. The 8 celestials slowly opened their eyes, slightly parted their lips, deeply and slowly inhaled, then exhaled slowly, smiled, and stood up from the cushions. Saiying, Dama, Swola, Jifan, Naji, and Sijia watched closely, understanding the principle that eating qi makes one deity-like. Zigui and the other 7 celestials then explained in detail the principles and methods of eating qi. After a few days, the 8 celestials bid farewell to Saiying, Dama, Swola, Jifan, Naji, and Sijia, and ascended into the air from the Taiji Palace Gate, flying towards the Tongtian Peak in the Moyun Mountains. They flew over the Bixia Mountains, the Yuhua Mountains, the 800-mile Xiubo Lake, the 900-mile Seifiaqui Plain, the Celestial Fascinated Gorge, the Valley of 10,000 Birds, the surging Blue Nephrite River, and the Double Ocean River, and arrived at Qiandao Lake, which spans over 160,000 hectares, approximately 10,000 kilometers away from Tongtian Peak. The expansive lake, seen from high altitude, resembled a blue curtain adorned with emerald pearls, offering beautiful scenery with crystal clear, soft, shimmering waves, and presenting diverse and auspicious postures. Meanwhile, on an island called Coral Bamboo, 16 celestial beings were observed practicing walking on the lake's surface. Zigui and the others visited Coral Bamboo Island and demonstrated and explained the key points of walking on the water to the other celestials. Due to space limitations, the scene and plot are omitted. On this day, the 8 celestials flew to the Pure Bath Garden, which is only 100 kilometers away from the Tongtian Peak. It is the holiest place in the 10,000 years world, where peculiar avoidance of vulgarism trees grow, magical psychic flowers bloom, and magical upward-flowing springs flow. The purple air on the ground is steaming, especially in a small and serene pool. Its temperature changes wonderfully. It is sometimes scalding hot, sometimes bone-chilling, sometimes spewing, and sometimes quiet. Only those who have practiced for more than 30,000 years can enter the Pure Bath Garden, the holy place. Those who have not cultivated enough will feel a strong repulsive force when they come to the edge of the garden and will feel restless and uncomfortable all over. Those who have cultivated enough will feel a strong pulling force when they come to the edge of the garden, and will feel calm and refreshed, and their energy will increase significantly. Therefore, any celestial who wants to fly to the Tongtian Peak must come here to verify their own cultivation. Only those who can enter the Pure Bath Garden can fly to the Tongtian Peak. The 8 celestials came to the Pure Bath Garden, feeling completely relaxed and happy. They felt a pulling force on them and then smoothly entered it, details omitted. They bathed in the sacred pool, and after the bath, they thoroughly remolded and emitted an exotic fragrance. This fragrance was like sandalwood, tuberose, musk, jasmine, rose, geranium, cinnamon, lavender, but it was none of them. It penetrated the heart and lungs, drunk one's innermost, connect divinities, open Buddha eyes, lighten one's bones, and enhanced their energy. The 8 celestials bathed in this fragrance and suddenly felt light and drifted straight up to 80,000 meters high, as if they were clouds blown by the wind, if not guided by intention. The 8 celestials wanted to go to Tongtian Peak, so in the blink of an eye, they had already floated to the sky-gazing cliff of Tongtian Peak. The sky-gazing cliff is a place where countless senior celestials rainbow over the ages. In the sky above the sky-gazing cliff, there is a pyramid tower made up of nearly 10,000 stars and planets. The tower is where universal energy converges and radiates onto the sky-gazing cliff. Being at the sky-gazing cliff, one can feel the energy overflowing throughout the body, incomparably comfortable. When the energy they absorbed is enough, the structure of their lifts undergoes a sudden mutation, and their Buddha eyes open, being able to see the mysteries of the universe. It is at this moment that many celestials who came to the sky-gazing cliff began to rainbow. Their entire body will transform into a green smoke and disperse, while the light of nature of their life will turn into a rainbow of 7 colors and fly toward the continent for 3 realms' lives to pass through at a lightning speed, and then go to other heavenly worlds. The 8 celestials, Zigui, Danjing, Biao, Xiaoxia, Hanliang, Sangqing, Ishi, and Qiantong, arrived at the sky-gazing cliff, as if they were in a void. They saw the blue waves of the Tsangting Sea are boundless and connecting the horizon, and the lofty Moyen mountain range extending far into the sky, and on the sky-gazing cliff, nearly 100 senior celestials had already arrived and were holding their breaths, concentrating, and receiving energy from the pyramid tower. Just as they were watching without knowing what to do, a celestial elder named Greeting Celestial appeared. He was specifically responsible for guiding the male and female celestials who flew to the sky-gazing cliff on how to absorb energy from the pyramid tower and then rainbow. The communication between the 8 celestials and the Greeting Celestial was not through language, but through symbols and telepathy, truly a same mind sensing each other. The 8 celestials quickly entered the state according to the guidance of the celestial elder. After an unknown amount of time, perhaps a moment, perhaps hundreds of years, when Danjing, Sangqing, and Ishi came back to their senses, Zigui, Biao, Xiaoxia, Hanliang, and Qiantong had disappeared. It turned out that the 5 celestials had already rainbowed and disappeared without a trace, while the remaining 3 still needed to continue cultivating in the 10,000-year world for some time. They were not worried and, following the guidance of the celestial elder, they flew to the Fairy Garden Canyon, where the ginseng fruit grows. To find out whether Danjing, Sangqing, and Ishi ate the ginseng fruit in the Fairy Garden Canyon and how they continued to cultivate, especially the cultivation of male-female dual cultivation without physical contact, interested readers can refer to A Second Glance at the 10,000-Year World. One day, and time mentioned in this article are purely for the sake of convenience in narration. In reality, the 10,000-year world does not have such a time concept. Please understand. A glance at the 1,000-year world. Xiefeng. Mount Butterfly in the Lotus Mountains is breezy and shrouded in mist with wind that soughs through the pines. Flowers spread across the mountainside and vie with each other for glamour. Down to the foot of the mountain, orchards and fields grow aromatic fruits where a clear stream meanders through Cuckoo Valley, past Grace River, and finally joins Ripple Lake. 39 celestials, 22 females, 15 males, and 2 children, reside under Mount Butterfly. Not far away, Sakura Island is inhabited by another group of celestials. Crossing over Fragrant Hill and walking along Sesame Slope for about 30 miles, Lush Highland will be found, home to more than 200 celestials. Approximately 300 celestials in total live in these 3 places within 200 miles of each other. Today, after Jade woke up, she dressed in a light blue skirt made of transparent silk and walked out of her house. High in the azure, birds soared over the clouds and silver waterfalls fell from the green of Mount Butterfly in a symphony of nature. In the forecourt, flowers were in bloom, the fullest of which were peach blossoms. Their pink petals were arranged in layers, 18 beige stamens stretched out from the center where bees searched for nectar. Along the stone path and through several rockeries, Jade came to the mulberry garden while holding a willow basket. She was surrounded immediately by a huang and lotus. You must have enjoyed a good sleep last night. Was your lover good? The two joked and chuckled. Jade tried to catch a huang in mock irritation, but the two ran away, so she chased after them. The 3 fairies chased one another while laughing in the garden until Jade caught Lotus and gently pinched on her peachy cheeks. They pinched each other's bodies in fun. A huang kissed Jade's cheek in chaos and asked naughtily, "Is this how your lover kissed you?" The kissed one held a huang in her arms and answered with more kisses on her red lips, "That's it." Having played enough, they began plucking mulberry leaves and returned when the basket was full. Jade was growing silkworms in 3 bamboo baskets of 3 square meters each, with each accommodating about 1,000 silkworms. She distributed mulberry leaves evenly into them. When silkworms climbed up onto the leaves, she would shake the baskets gently, silkworm excrement would leak through the basket bottom, and she would sweep it into a fine wicker dustpan and bury it at the roots of the flowers. Jade was about to rest after feeding her silkworms when she heard someone trotting over. It was the lovely little 6-year-old, Long. He had inherited fine features from his mother, Ray. He gasped, "Aunt, Mom said the melons are ripe, come and have a taste." Jade replied, "I'll go there, shall we go together," and took Long's tiny hand. They left the courtyard. As they stepped across a bridge over a stream, Long asked, "Aunt, grasses are green by the river beneath the bridge, flowers are blossoming in spring, all beings are as sentient as my beauty, though the world is created in holographic order. What does sentience mean?" Jade said, "It means that the river, flowers, stars, breeze, melons, birds, and everything else can feel, like your mom and me." "Who taught you the lines?" "Uncle Mock. He and Uncle Bennett teach me a lot. Do you want me to recite some?" Long began reciting verses immediately. Boundless and infinite. Without distance or space. Only the holographic order. An inspiration seized by heart. The world is so clear to be understood. Walking and chatting, Jade and Long came to a forest of lush bamboos and fresh shoots. The rustling of bamboos and songs of yellow warblers echoed deeply. It seemed that the forest was little known to the outside world and only the sound of nature could be heard. Out of bamboo forest, a vast plain extended before their eyes where distant hills dissolved into mist. The breeze was gentle and the sun was warm. On verdant plain, spotted deer strolled and swans fluttered. Heading toward the direction of flute music and dancing where the melon fields laid, Jade paced up with Long. They had nearly arrived when Ray shouted, "Jade, hurry up. Today is the Melon Festival, let's celebrate it." Ray had actually gathered everyone. In addition to 39 fairies from Mount Butterfly, they had 6 guests from Sakura Island, and Meta and Kin from Lush Highland. In the field, Ling, Sang, Bar, Moi, Chiron, and Hai were picking melons. They were yellow and green in color, round and plump in shape, and very inviting. While Meta from Lush Highland was dancing and guests were all drawn to her tantalizing moves with her well-curved shape and the flutter of her orange dress, Kin was singing aloud to Meta's dance, "Ripe fruits and melons await their harvest, mulberry leaves wait for picking, and Meta in the melon field waits for love." The truth is that Meta was an estrus and she glowed with youth. Every natural move of her dance was sensual and captivating. Her thick dark hair, touching eyes, and pink face were perfectly appealing. After the music, everyone ate the sweet and crispy melons. Then Ray announced, "Today is special. Everyone, stop building bridges, paving roads, collecting honey, trimming orchards, and making clothes. These melons have been grown for 3 years since I planted the seeds from Peach Village of Birdsong Mountain. Enjoy them. The melons will induce your saliva and refresh you, and their pleasant impression can last for 10 days. In addition, Meta from Lush Highland is looking for her love. Gentlemen, show your best." Ray's words drew great applause. Girls circled and started the mulberry leaf-picking dance while boys performed the bridge dance from within their circle. Kin was at the center of the circle and he lifted Meta up to sit on his shoulders. The beautiful seeker of love allowed her soft dress to cover Kin's head and Kin spun around, holding her calves so that she could choose a lover from the crowd. Boys came to court Meta assiduously and implied their strength and tricks by dancing. Standing by the scene, 3 celestials accompanied the dancers with flutes, pine, river, and cloud. They were about 800 years old and the dancing continued until their music ceased. The next game was composing verses. Whoever's verses expressed Meta's feelings best would be the one that she would have. Meta started the game with her verses. Waves run high in the vast lake. Twin peaks rise above the earth. Seeds sprout in a dense forest. But a duet still lacks the other instrument. Sang from Mount Butterfly composed. Sang river flows silently all year long. Snow melts on the high hill. Swans visit the ravine. I play music to build the rainbow bridge. Rice from Sakura Island sang. Rosy clouds appear over the hill. Where an exotic flower is up high. Clouds soar with strong wind in the sky. Thundering and lightning dance to climax. Becky from Mount Butterfly said. 1,000-year golden fir is in bud. A fountain in peace is to flow. The surge will reach the depth of the sea. The temple of gods is splendid as a flower. Chiswa from Mount Butterfly stepped forward, he bowed and sang. I row with a paddle across Double Peak Valley. Get wet passing the jungles. Rising hills and streams appear. I find my way back and forth and reach heaven. Raisin from Sakura Island smilingly sang in an unhurried manner. Endless springtime. The plum has blossomed for times to sing merrily and dance gracefully. Even the leafless ironwood can turn the world upside down with its charm. All the guests from Mount Butterfly and Sakura Island, excepting Pine and River, finished their turns. Meta had been limp and soft as a noodle, no one knew who she chose. Ray came to the scene. Ray was more than 600 years old. She was considerate, sophisticated, and respected. She smiled and said, Jade, take Meta to your room to rest. Everyone else, come to Entertainment Garden. Pine will lecture, then we will guess riddles, play hide-and-seek and tell stories. Everyone headed toward Entertainment Garden delightedly. Ray spoke privately with Sang, Becky, Chiron, Chiswa, and Baong respectively, and then left along with other celestials. Here come 2 flowers, let's go to the first one, Entertainment Garden. Entertainment Garden had been built up for more than 30,000 years. It has a square in the center, surrounded by 300 stone benches arranged in circles and covered with soft mats. Tree bonsai, rock bonsai, and flower bonsai are placed between them. Around the square is the clear, blue ring lake. Within the lake, grotesque coral reef-like rockeries are embedded with emeralds and mosses. There are also reeds, evergreens, calla lilies, egg bamboo leaves, wandering Jews, aloe, sea onions, hibiscus palms, lotuses, gem flowers, bamboo begonias, scarlet kaffir lilies, variable leaf wood, chamomile, fairy pens, and other plants and flowers. All kinds of small fish shuttle in the lake and above them, mandarin ducks, red-crowned cranes, spotted ducks, gulls, kingfishers, egrets, herons, white-tailed sea carvings, and larks swim or fly. On the periphery of Ring Lake is a flagged path beside a garden where thyme, globe amaranths, yulan, bauhinias, forsythias, rhododendrons, pomegranates, banana scrubs, gardenias, jasmines, hibiscus mutabilis, camellia, cymbidium, hyacinth, tulips, violets, vinca, peonia, tuberose, marigold, peonies, and roses are blooming. Outside the garden, hundreds of rockeries with exquisite layouts, upon which creepers, ivy, and night willow herbs are coiled. It's a fun place to play hide-and-seek. Pine sat upright in the center of the square, his hair was white, but he was in good health with sharp ears and eyes. Male and female celestials sat on stone benches, casually listening to Pine talk about Tao. The universe is boundless while life is evergreen. Modesty and gratitude will perpetuate the water source of life. Follow your heart and gain a tacit understanding. Experience both the ego-absent realm and the ego-involved realm. One should empty their mind before entering the higher-level space. Act in accordance with your nature. Never admire luxury or possess even a needle. Seize the day and always remain vigilant. Mortals suffer a lot because of their possessions. We celestials must never act like them. The 10,000-year world is close at hand. Concentrate on self-cultivation, never ruin your future. After listening to Pine's preaching for some time, attentively, male and female celestials felt refreshed, energized, pure, and enlightened. The next game was guessing riddles. Hai stood up first and proposed a riddle. Both ends are curved like carrying poles. It is not used for carrying water or rice. It is like a flat ground from east to west. It is always covered with emerald green moss. Bevran from Sakura Island immediately stood up and said, "It is a bridge." Hori, a female celestial, stood up and proposed a riddle. "It is black and dark and even 18 cattle can't pull it." Silence, a male one, shouted, "It's a cave." Yovan, who looked girlish, stood up smartly, cleared his throat, and proposed a riddle. "There is a unique cave on the hillside. It is usually closed and has a seam. If it is stirred by a peak, the brushes on both sides will drip with water." Hearing the riddle, everyone was stunned at first but then roared with a laughter that echoed to the clouds. The riddle game lasted for a while longer. After that, they told stories and played hide-and-seek. Laughter, joy, and happiness abounded. Meta from Lush Highland followed into Jade's bright and spacious room. Her walls, doors, and roof were made of bamboo and her silk curtains floated in the wind. Outside her rear window was the picturesque land of splendors, where red-crowned cranes dancing trippingly, sweet flowers, and tweeting birds can only be described by one word, beautiful. Several bamboo deck chairs lined her room. Her wide bamboo bed was covered with several layers of mats knitted with fragrant milkweeds as thin as threads. The mats emitted a refreshing fragrance. It was soft and comfortable to lie upon. The pillow made of flexible lotus roots was yellowish and elegant. Jade knew that Meta could not hold it at that moment, so she patted on Meta's plump hips and left. Due to their life structures, women in the 1,000-year world generally had no sex lives. Their menstrual cycles were different from those of mortals, only occurring once every 3 months. A few days before their cycles would end were their estrus periods, so they desired intimacy only 3 or 4 times per year. That which flows constantly will form a small murmuring stream, but that which does not will accumulate and become a reservoir. It is quiet when closed, but after the gate opens, waves will surge and uncontrollable billows will dash against the sky that cannot be resisted by self-control. Meta was on the edge of such an explosion at that moment. Men in the 1,000-year world were completely different from women. They could display their elegant demeanor at any time and control their lust totally. Without external stimulus, they had no desire, but when teased by women during their estrus, would gallop on the grasslands like runaway wild horses. In addition, celestials in the 1,000-year world enjoyed excellent lifelong health and thus did not suffer from emotional distress or psychological burdens. There were various recreational and physical activities, so women were soft as cotton, highly energetic, dynamic, and attractive, while men were physically strong, muscular and powerful, and full of vital essence and vigor. Meta sat on pins and needles and felt anxious. There was an overwhelming potential energy inside her body that was ready to explode but failed to find its outlet. At that very moment of her unbearable thirst, Becky came into view. At the sight of Becky's big, tall, and muscular physique, and sparkling eyes, Meta jumped onto him like a hungry tiger. Becky put his arms around Meta's waist and spined his body at his convenience while Meta used her legs to step onto his hips and hooked his waist with her feet. Becky held Meta in his arms tightly. They kissed madly with their lips stuck together like glue. Meanwhile, Meta's middle part made reciprocating motions back and forth like a hungry bird opening its mouth to take food from its mother's throat. Her plump labia and valley were rubbed firmly against his hot love rod. With uncontrollable excitement, after rubbing about 50 times, a stream of clear liquid flowed out of her vulva and nourished her surrounding parts. Just at that moment, Becky squeezed into her temple of God with his penis along her seam flowing with clear liquid. Meta suddenly had a full feeling inside as if her pelvis would split, a current flowed through her body and an unbearable pleasure was beating inside her. Becky held Meta and went to her bedside. Meta was in a supine position on the bed with her feet on the ground while Becky moved rapidly. Meta closed her eyes and ignored the raging wind. Meta felt swelling, limp, and numb, pain, smoothness, warmth, fullness, wetness, and energy. It seemed a wonderful electric wave radiated from the center point between her legs to every cell and corner. Meta tightened her body, her flexible tendons of legs, feet, hands, and other parts were stiff like reinforcing steel bars after an electric shock. The gate had opened and the flood poured out along it. Short of breath, she felt extremely excited and wonderful. It was like flying, a volcanic explosion, and cracking and bursting fireworks. Opening the gate was just a prelude. Becky opened the gate and extinguished his fire, little by little. For Meta, opening the gate was far from enough and she wanted to drain out the reservoir after months of accumulation. If anything was left, it would be very unbearable for her in the following days, so more wonderful, graceful, unrestrained, lewd, dissolute, winding, and pleasurable plots were staged with the arrival of Sang, Raisin, Chiron, Chiswa, and Baong one after another. These stories are omitted because mortals cannot morally bear for them to be described. This has only been a limited glimpse of the 1,000-year world with its own lifestyle and morals which we cannot imagine. We will experience more detailed scenarios as our thinking deepens, our consciousness improves, and our life structure advances. Another glance at the 1,000-year world. Xiefeng. January 18, 2010. Lush Highlands male celestial Kin and female celestial Meta came to Butterfly Peak of Lotus Mountain to live with 29 other celestials. This is a tradition that has formed in the 1,000-year world, with frequent personnel movement. The 1,000-year world is 10 times larger than the Earth, with nearly 2 million villages. The most populous village has about 300 people, while the least has nearly 30. The population of each village is not fixed but transient. In other words, after Kin and Meta came to Butterfly Peak, they would not return to Lush Highland but instead stay to live on Butterfly Peak. Meanwhile, Hai and Hori, the two female celestials living on Butterfly Peak, have been there for more than 20 years, after having discussed with Ray decided to go to 7 Fragrances Garden of Crane Ridge, on cloud-piercing mountain range, which is 150 kilometers away. The cloud-piercing mountain range is one of the 5 continuous mountain ranges in the 1,000-year world, starting from the Silver Wave Sea, lake, and ending at the Bean River. It stretches for more than 80,000 kilometers, with the highest peak, Qingtian Peak, about 43,000 meters high. It is the highest peak in the 1,000-year world. Crane Ridge is a mountain ridge in the middle of the cloud-piercing mountain range. On this ridge, peaks are layered and colored clouds swirl around them. The area covers more than 120 square kilometers, with mountains within mountains and peaks on top of peaks. It is tall and steep, with a variety of shapes, and the mist and clouds linger, creating endless charm. Crane Ridge is close to the vastest Yuetsong Lake in the 1,000-year world. Cranes often gather here to eat and play before flying to Crane Ridge to roost. Therefore, this ridge is called Crane Ridge. 7 Fragrances Garden is a village under Crane Ridge. There are 7 fragrances here, the first from pearl stone, the second from heavenly fragrance grass, the third from Lechoman flower, the fourth from purple osmanthus tree, the fifth from heart-penetrating springs, the sixth from longevity fruit, and the 7th from fragrant winds. These 7 fragrances are continuously emitted throughout the year, nourishing the appearance, spirit, heart, and body. On this day, Hai, who was wearing a green silk dress and was slender and beautiful at over 360 years old, and Hori, who was wearing a yellow long dress and was plump and charming at over 450 years old, came to the farewell bridge with a small bundle containing a set of spare clothes. All the celestials from Butterfly Peak, including Kin and Meta, gathered at the farewell bridge to bid them farewell. Because this kind of separation in the 1,000-year world is almost forever, it is difficult to reunite after parting, so everyone was reluctant to part, hugging each other with tears in their eyes. Hai choked and said, 300 miles away, I must reluctantly part with my loved ones. We have been in love for 20 years, and our love will forever be engraved in my heart. Hori wept and said, for 20 years we have been together, our affection and cherished memories shining brightly. As we depart for 7 Fragrances Garden, I can only meet you in my dreams. Handsome sang, representing all male celestials of Butterfly Peak, held high and Hori's hands and tearfully said, "We recall the many lingering moments and boundless love we've shared. As we part, leaving behind the empty pavilion, when will we meet again? Our affection is like a range of mountains, and our love is like water within water. We can only often look at the swallows flying back and forth, comforting our yearning for one another." Stunning Jiaoyu, representing all the female celestials, embraced Hai and Hori, weeping and saying, "Our sisterly bond runs deep, and our love and joy were once so warm and delightful. With each passing year, the mountains remain verdant, and the seasons change. Though we part, our blessings will be with you every day." As celestials were reluctant to part and Hai and Hori were struggling to leave, Ray put on a brave face and sang a farewell song, "Do not grieve or linger, for everywhere beyond the horizon, green grass and blue skies abound. Amidst thousands of rivers and mountains, there are always our love. Joys and sorrows all have great value. Do not shed a tear, please embark on your journey. Your reputation precedes you throughout the world, and your loved ones from afar await your arrival. Do not miss out on the bright opportunities that lie ahead." After that, Ray gently pushed Hai and Hori forward, and the male and female celestials bid them farewell with tears in their eyes. Hai and Hori, with their eyes blurred with tears, turned back at every step, gradually becoming more and more distant. As Hai and Hori walked past the melon garden, over the stone bridge, through the meadow, up the fragrant grassy slope, and into the mulberry grove, they continued to wave goodbye. Until Hai and Hori's figures disappeared into the forest of mulberry trees, they just left the farewell bridge silently. This is exactly, throughout history, the pain of separation has always been felt deeply by those in love, yet it is affection that brings both joy and sorrow. After traversing the mulberry forest, they reached an open field blanketed with low-lying flowers and grasses, resembling a grassland. The area was adorned with Stipa grandis, rhododendrons, boxwoods, sand junipers, prostrate junipers, forsythia, primroses, roses, brambles, jasmines, sand willows, yellow thorn plums, lilacs, flowering plums, cherry blossoms, Lamus chinensis, rough grass, fennel beans, wild peas, sea buckthorns, ice grass, buplurum, astragalus, wormwood, silver roses, thyme, pale purple delphiniums, bright red morningstar lilies, clusters of pink phoenix hair, sand ginseng with funnel-like flowers, sword-leaved iris with small purple flowers, threadleaf coreopsis with small yellow flowers, and more, all in full bloom, delighting the eye and refreshing the soul. The anticipation of meeting nearly 300 male and female celestials at 7 Fragrances Garden swept away any lingering sadness from Hai and Hori's previous parting. They happily danced like 2 little girls or 2 large butterflies. They ran, twirled, shouted, and cheered, carrying their small bundles as they traversed the open field. After a while, they arrived at a small stream originating from Lotus Mountain. They followed the clear and flowing stream for about a whole day on earth, until they saw Grace River, which sparkled and flowed gently. The 2 celestials were a bit tired, so they sat on the green stones by the stream and rested for a while. After a short break, they felt a bit hungry, so they started looking for food around them. Near the stream, there was a sparse forest. When they came to the forest, they found several chestnut trees. The chestnuts were hanging from the branches, many of the shells had cracked open, revealing the golden chestnuts inside. They were easy to pick, and the 2 celestials peeled and ate more than 10 of them, feeling slightly full. After quenching their thirst by cupping their hands to drink water from the stream, they felt refreshed and continued their journey forward. Here, I need to mention that when Hai and Hori departed from Butterfly Peak, they didn't bring anything with them except for a set of clean clothes. Why? Because there was food everywhere in the 1,000-year world. Fruits produced by plants were abundant and could be found everywhere. 8 treasure ginseng, flower bud milk fruit, drunken heart leaves, sand lotus, and 3 fairy melons. Because the food was abundant in the thousand-year world and the ripening period of the fruits was long, for example, if peaches on earth were not picked or eaten within a few days after they were ripe, they would rot. However, the fruits in the thousand-year world would not rot for about half a year after they were ripe and would still be fresh. Therefore, there was abundant food everywhere in the thousand-year world, and one did not need to worry about not having anything to eat. 8 Treasure ginseng, flower bud milk fruit, drunken heart leaves, sand lotus, and 3 fairy melons. Because the food was abundant in the thousand-year world and the ripening period of the fruits was long, for example, if peaches on earth were not picked or eaten within a few days after they were ripe, they would rot. However, the fruits in the thousand-year world would not rot for about half a year after they were ripe and would still be fresh. Therefore, there was abundant food everywhere in the thousand-year world, and one did not need to worry about not having anything to eat. Furthermore, there are no carnivorous animals in the thousand-year world, such as tigers, leopards, jackals, or wolves. There are no crocodiles, poisonous snakes, spiders, scorpions, centipedes, mosquitoes, or flies that can harm people. Therefore, no matter where you live or go, it is very safe. Also, the thousand-year world is basically at a constant temperature, with no strong winds, heavy rain, or nighttime, so there is no need to prepare extra warm or cool clothing. Unexpectedly to humans on Earth, the celestial beings of the thousand-year world can go without sleep for 7 to 8 consecutive days when necessary. It's similar to some migratory birds on Earth like the Arctic tern, blackpoll warbler, European white stork, New Zealand long-tailed cuckoo, and the sea gulls of the Isle of Man, who can fly continuously for several days without resting during their long-distance migration. The special climate, environment, diet, and lifestyle of the thousand-year world have created a unique physiological structure for the celestial beings, just like how women in the thousand-year world have their menstrual cycle every 3 to 4 months, Earth time, instead of once a month like on Earth. Therefore, Hai and Hori, on their way from Butterfly Peak to Seven Fragrances Garden, which is 150 kilometers away, did not need to stay at hotels or dine at restaurants along the way. Hai and Hori followed a stream and arrived at the Grace River because the stream flowed into it. The Grace River originates from the Kasiramaya Mountains, flows into the Ripple Lake, and has a total length of over 23,000 kilometers. It is wide and clear, with a gentle current. Hai said to Hori, "Sister, the terrain ahead seems rugged and difficult to walk on. Shall we take the water route?" Hori readily agreed, "Okay, my dear sister." So, the two celestials began to swim down the river. In the thousand-year world, there are 10 big rivers and numerous lakes and around 100,000 small rivers, so the male and female celestials all have been swimming since childhood and are all skilled swimmers. Their clothes are mainly made of silk, thin as cicada wings, so Hai and Hori didn't take off their clothes, only wrapped their small bundle around their waist, and entered the Grace River to drift downstream. It was like drifting clouds driven by the wind, and they felt as if they were being caressed by thousands of hands. The green hills on both sides raced behind them, and several rows of white egrets flew over their heads. The two celestials played in the water like fish, and in half a day, they had already swum out more than 30 miles. The Red Plateau was not far ahead, and Hai suggested, "Sister, let's get ashore and walk on the Red Plateau, and let's grab something to eat along the way." Hori happily agreed, "I'll do whatever my dear sister says." Two celestials landed on shore and wrung out the water from their bundles with their hands. They climbed up the red clay slope and reached the top of the hill, where they had a broad view of the wild and magnificent scenery. There were forests of Altingia chinensis, alpine pine, larch, longleaf pine, blue pine, hemlock, cold fir, spruce, unicorn leaves, lipstick plant, highland oak, birch, alder, poplar, and cypress, among which were bushes such as small artemisia, purple needlegrass, sand-binding grass, camelthorn, fruit-bearing ephedra, Sympegma regilii, tumbleweed, sand needlegrass, bush cinquefoil, sheep fescue, alpine knotweed, rhododendron shrubs, club moss, red sand willow, roundhead smartweed, Chinese pearly everlasting, Chinese cinquefoil, dark brown sedge, marsh marigold, kidney-leaved groundsel, cushion catmint, thyme-leaved sandwort, fairies snow, snow lotus flower, shining needlegrass, saxaul, great burnet, and other plants. Pheasants, ring-necked pheasants, yellow pheasants, peacocks, chikar partridge, parrots, collared doves, quails, and other birds are running around among them. As they wandered through this diverse flora, they kept an eye out for raspberries and eventually found a few bright, translucent red fruits. They stood next to the small bush and picked and ate them. After finishing, they continued their winding journey through the sparsely wooded mountain slope. Unaware of how long they had been walking, they eventually crossed the red plateau and entered the Sangnagir grassland. Was vast, covering an area of more than 200 square kilometers. After crossing the grassland and a canyon, they were close to Crane Ridge, which was equivalent to arriving at Seven Fragrances Garden. Hori said, "Sister, I'm a little tired. Let's rest here for a while," looking a little exhausted. "Okay. Let me hold you and lie down for a while," replied Hai. The two celestial sisters lay down on the soft grassland, and Hori snuggled up to Hai, facing each other. After a while, they fell asleep. Clip-clop. The sound of horse hooves approached closer and closer. Hai and Hori woke up at the same time, sat up, and looked around. They saw 4 horses galloping a few hundred meters away, one chestnut red, one black, one pure white, and one black and white. Each horse was ridden by a handsome man who was racing and chasing. Hai and Hori stood up quickly, waved their arms, and shouted, "Hey! Hey! Hey!" The horsemen heard the shouting and galloped towards Hai and Hori. They arrived in the blink of an eye and circled around Hai and Hori. Then, the 4 men dismounted, and one of them named Dayue eagerly asked, "Where are you two from? Where are you going? What are your names? Do you need our help?" Hai excitedly replied, "My name is Hai, and her name is Hori. We came from the Butterfly Peak in Lotus Mountain, and we are going to Seven Fragrances Garden. How about you? Where are you from?" One of the 4, Dayue, added, "We are from Seven Fragrances Garden. He is Raji, Gaxiu, Fubo, and I am Dayue. We are racing horses. Welcome to stay in Seven Fragrances Garden." Raji said, "Fubo and I will go and inform all the celestials in Seven Fragrances Garden that you have arrived. Gaxiu and Dayue will take care of you too." After saying that, Raji and Fubo mounted their horses and galloped away in a flash. Everyone watched Raji and Fubo disappear, and the sharp-featured and well-built Dayue couldn't help but say to Hai and Hori, "Welcome to Seven Fragrances Garden, two celestial sisters. I am Dayue, and I warmly welcome you. I would like to be a swift horse for you to ride, and a spring pool for you to bathe in." Gaxiu, with a handsome and graceful face, couldn't wait to flatter and said, "Brother is born for younger sister, and I will fulfill her every wish. From now on, we will gather at the Seven Fragrances Garden, and I will serve you under your skirt every day." Hai affectionately touched Gaxiu's face and said with a smile, "The little baby is so obedient. After we arrive at the Seven Fragrances Garden, I will give you a chance every day to wash my fragrant feet." As she spoke, she laughed merrily. Hori asked Dayue with a smile, "Are you a good boy? If you are, then you can lie down and smell my feet under my skirt." Dayue immediately knelt in front of Hori and tried to smell her feet. Hori pulled him up and kissed his forehead affectionately and said, "You are really a good boy. From now on, sister will give you a chance every day to wash my butt." She burst into laughter, and Gaxiu and Dayue also joined in laughter. Their relaxed and pleasant laughter echoed across the Sangnagir grassland. The sky and the earth were so vast and pure, and nature was so harmonious and auspicious. It was beautiful. Before Hori finished laughing, clever Dayue picked her up and placed her on the red horse. He handed her the reins and climbed onto the horse behind her. Gaxiu followed suit and lifted Hai onto the black horse. The 4 of them slowly rode towards the Seven Fragrances Garden. Colorful clouds float above Crane Ridge, and phoenixes grace the Seven Fragrances Garden. Auspiciousness permeates the celestial realm, promising everlasting happiness, sang Dayue energetically. Ascend into the vibrant clouds and behold. The 1,000-year world, our homeland, lies all around. Graceful in body and mind, our souls soar freely. We offer thanks to heaven, earth, and the greatest creator, Hori sang in harmony. Clouds flying, water flowing, celestial cranes dancing, and flowers exuding fragrance. Brothers lead sisters back to their homeland, hearts and spirits intoxicated with joy. The melody of happiness resounds throughout the journey, Gaxiu sang along. Light steps, minds and bodies brimming with vitality. It's akin to a dream, entering a fantasy realm. Where green mountains and clear waters harmonize, waves gently ripple, and mandarin ducks frolic. Every corner of the homeland teems with delight, Hai joined in the song. As they walked, conversed, and sang, they soon departed the Sangnagier grasslands, reaching the wind-singing canyon. Towering rocks and peaks adorned the canyon, while exotic flowers bloomed in profusion. Every breeze produced a melodious resonance, echoing through the valley. The winding path ahead was challenging, prompting Dayue's suggestion to let the horses run. Hori and Hai tightened their grips on the reins, urging the chestnut red and black horses, resembling fairy tale creatures, to gallop. Dayue and Gaxiu embraced Hori and Hai tightly from behind. The rhythmic movement and the warmth of their embrace stirred a sense of relaxation and comfort, signaling the onset of estrus, amidst this enchanting ambience reminiscent of an impending storm. The four celestials remained silent, not knowing how much time had passed until they emerged from the canyon, spotting a group of horses galloping toward them. It was Raji and Fubo, leading villagers from Seven Fragrances Garden to greet them. "Hey! We're here!" Dayue shouted loudly, and the two horses carried the four celestials forward to meet the group of celestials. When they were still more than 100 meters away from the horse herd, Raji, who was sitting on a pure white horse, shouted loudly, "Everyone, line up to welcome them." The group of celestials shook their reins, and instantly more than 30 horses formed a line in a formation. The chestnut red and black horses, with Dayue, Hori, and Gaxiu riding them, rushed to the front of the line. They lifted their hooves, approached, neighed a few times, and then stopped. It could be heard, the group of celestials shouting in unison, "Welcome the distant celestials to Seven Fragrances Garden." Hori and Hai, sitting on their horses, bent down and clasped fists to salute everyone, saying, "Thank you all for coming to meet us. We greet and salute all the brothers and sisters of Seven Fragrances Garden. Let's go." Raji shouted, leading the way toward Seven Fragrances Garden, and the others followed suit. The horses Hai and Hori rode were among the group, and everyone rode together in high spirits and excitement, arriving at Seven Fragrances Garden in no time. Seven Fragrances Garden is located at the foot of Crane Ridge in the cloud-piercing mountains. Nearly 300 celestial mansions were built along the mountainside, with peach and apricot fairy trees mixed in between, surrounded by exotic flowers and plants. The sunny and beautiful scenery is adorned with auspicious signs and a warm atmosphere brought by hundreds of birds. Everyone gathered around Hai and Hori and arrived at the welcome celestials' garden of Seven Fragrances Garden. They served up the delicious liquor-nourishing juice of the 1,000-year world, picked the unique 8 treasures ginseng fruit and flower buds milk fruit of the 1,000-year world. The respected Beijian of Seven Fragrances Garden welcomed them and said, "Thanks to the greatest creator for his kindness, and for bestowing the arrival of Hai and Hori at Seven Fragrances Garden. To express our welcome to Hai and Hori, we will hold entertainment activities for 3 days, with the following projects. 1. Singing and dancing in the welcome celestials' garden. 2. Visiting Crane Ridge together. 3. Boating in the Lake Bay. 4. Poetry competition in the 100 Fruits Orchard. 5. Exhibition of skills and craftsmanship. 6. Performance in the Joyful Square. 7. Guessing riddles and telling stories. 8. Sermon in Sublimation Garden. Now, let Dayue and Gaxiu take Hai and Hori to their respective celestial mansions to rest for a while, and then everyone can gather at the welcome celestial garden to sing and dance with joy. It should be noted that not long ago, 2 male celestials, Mutant and Xijiao, and 2 female celestials, Yuyao and Qini, left 7 Fragrances Garden to live in Gourd Island, 300 kilometers away. The celestial mansions where Hori and Hai will reside in 7 Fragrances Garden are the places where Yuyao and Qini used to live. Dayue led Hori, and Gaxiu led Hai. The 4 celestial girls of 7 Fragrances Garden, Budi, Solan, Long, and Weijia, accompanied them to the heart-penetrating spring. The heart-penetrating spring is located in the embrace of 7-Star Rock and is a hot spring in 7 Fragrances Garden. The water of the spring is clear and pure, and the temperature of the water is suitable. The water vapor emits a fantastic fragrance. The spring looks like a small mirror lake. There is a thick layer of clean sand around the spring, and the bottom of the spring is covered with colorful pebbles. From the edge to the center, it gradually deepens, and the central part of the spring is several meters deep, which can accommodate 40 to 50 celestials bathing at the same time. The 8 celestials came to the edge of the spring, and Budi and Solan took care of Hori, while Ilong and Weijia helped Hai. The 6 celestial girls stripped naked and walked into the lake. They played in the water for a while before standing at the edge of the water. At this time, Dayue and Gaxiu respectively picked several green fragrant leaves, which are wide and soft, supple, and strong, like a bath towel used for bathing in the mortal world. Dayue and Gaxiu handed a few pieces of green fragrant leaves to Budi, Solan, Along, and Weijia respectively. Then the 4 fairies gently washed Hori and Hai's bodies respectively. Dayue and Gaxiu sat on the sandy beach by the spring lake, enjoying the graceful and charming figures of the 6 celestial girls. A wave of warm and happy feelings overflowed throughout their bodies. Hori and Hai were being touched all over by the 4 celestial girls. Along with being hugged by Dayue and Gaxiu while riding on horseback on their way to 7 Fragrances Garden, the bouncing and friction of the horseback against their genitals sparks an unusual sense of youthful restlessness. Hori and Hai gradually became hot. This sensation served as a prelude to the impending eruption of the 4-month-long pent-up youthful surge within their bodies. After their baths, Budi and Solan escorted Hori to Yuyao's former celestial mansion, while Ilong and Weijia led Hai to Qini's previous dwelling. Yuyao's celestial abode rested upon a flat expanse halfway up Crane Ridge, surrounded by lush green bamboo, fragrant blossoms, and the melodious chirping of birds. The scenery was breathtaking, the space bright and expansive. Standing within the courtyard offered a panoramic view, truly refreshing to the spirit. Upon entering the room, Hori was greeted by a fragrant ambience, immaculately clean and pristine. Light blue silk curtains swayed gently in the breeze, while a large bamboo bed was adorned with fragrant grass mats. The lotus root pillow, in a soothing milky yellow, were just the right blend of softness and support. At the foot of the bed, a neatly arranged quilt made from celestial petals awaited, while a bamboo tea table before the bamboo lounge chairs held an array of unique fruits exclusive to the 1,000-year world. These fruits, including milk juice pomelo, nourishing orchid, 5 fragrance orange, 8 treasure ginseng, flower bud fruit milk, drunken heart leaves, sand lotus root, and 3 fairy melon, were handpicked by a dozen celestial beings such as Raji, Fubo, and others, as a gesture of hospitality during Hori and Hai's bath at the heart-penetrating spring. Hori indulged in some milk juice from the pomelo and a few bites of flower bud fruit before retiring to bed. Budi and Solan tenderly tucked her in, gently caressing and patting her until she drifted off to sleep. Singing and dancing in the welcome celestial garden. Hori and Hai awoke refreshed and invigorated, already awaited by Budi and Solan in the small courtyard, while Ilong and Weijia had kept watch for Hai in her room. After grooming themselves, they each savored a bamboo cup of nourishing juice prepared by the female celestials, a blend of honey, sweet spring water, green fragrant leaves, 100 flower stamens, energy stones, 8 treasure ginseng, longevity roots, wolfberries, red dates, and fairy fruit. This elixir, reminiscent of both wine and juice, left them feeling clear-headed and revitalized. They also enjoyed some 3 fairy melons before making their way through the winding paths of the forest and flower trails to the welcome celestial garden. This enchanting garden resembled a miniature basin, surrounded by gradually rising terrain with a flat expanse in the center, ideal for accommodating the 300 celestial beings who could sing and dance simultaneously. As Hori and Hai entered the garden, nearly 300 residents of 7 Fragrances Garden were already seated, eagerly anticipating their arrival. Upon seeing them, everyone stood up and shouted in unison, "Hori and Hai are great." The whole venue erupted with joyful cheers, vibrant and lively, as if celebrating a festival. The singing and dancing welcome party was hosted by the talented female celestial Yayao and the male celestial Yejun of 7 Fragrances Garden. Yayao, over 400 years old, possessed a graceful figure and beauty akin to a super-celestial being. Her body boasted elegant curves, and her demeanor exuded charm. With a lively and flirtatious personality, she was adored by all the celestial beings of 7 Fragrances Garden. Yejun, over 300 years old, sported thick eyebrows and large eyes, along with fine, tender skin and a well-proportioned physique. His features were distinct, and his voice resonated powerfully when he spoke. His dancing was as fluid as water, as enchanting as magic, and as ethereal as a fairy's. His personality was rough yet refined and delicate, particularly in the expressive depths of his eyes, which held a myriad of emotions and infinite allure, capable of captivating the hearts and souls of others. Yayao took the lead with a voice as clear as a silver bell. Hai and Hori have descended to earth, and 7 Fragrances Garden is aglow with radiance. All celestial beings will showcase songs and dances to express our gratitude to the greatest creator for orchestrating such a splendid event. 1,000 miles of mountains and rivers brimming with joy, 10,000 miles of sky adorned with auspicious signs, let us sing of the joys of life and dance with celestial sentiments. Yejun then continued, the song and dance party welcoming Hai and Hori will proceed in the following order. Tsijia's solo, Gazing into Your Heart. Medi's solo dance, Intoxicated Blossoms of 7 Fragrances Garden. Yayao and Ai's duet dance, Ascending the Hill Together. Raji and Dayao's duet, Who Stole My Heart. Gandhi, Bashya, Yuji, and Huazi's flute ensemble, 100 Birds Pay Homage to the Phoenix. Sualan, Xingdi, Yuer, and Kasang's panpipe quartet, Serenading the Heartland. Gaxiu, Wiha, Dayue, Luanbei, Lyotsue, Shuama, Lanbai, and Xianluan's group dance, Joyous Savannas of Sangnajir. 18. All of 7 Fragrances Garden's residents, Flight of Love. Let us begin with Tsijia's rendition of Gazing into Your Heart, Yejun announced, as the striking figure of Tsijia rose from amidst the celestial assembly, his deep and melodious voice filling the air. I gaze into your heart, where deep affection binds me to you. Do you recall our love atop the hill, where the breeze, intoxicated, carried fragrances? Violets bloomed in our midst, while flocks of cranes soared above. Hand in hand, we descended the hill, as mountains danced and Lansang rivers sang for us. I gaze into your heart, where memories of our love linger, unable to forget our cherished moments. Our love flows like the eternal Sangna River, as trumpet creepers bloom once more. My beloved, where do you reside? Birds traverse the sky, and clouds drift by, as flowers emit fragrance, and I sing softly for you. With Tsijia's song concluded, Medi took the stage for a solo dance, followed by Yayao and Yejun's mesmerizing duet, Ascending the Hill Together. Yayao's upper body was tightly wrapped in a piece of blue silk, accentuating her slender waist and prominent breasts, while her exposed navel exuded infinite allure. Below, she wore only a pair of ultra-small purple panties, with her dense pubic hair peeking out like a brilliant halo along the edge, while her long, slender legs resembled 2 jade dragons leaping and dancing. With coquettish eyes and sparkling allure, she stood at the center of the welcome celestial garden, gracefully bowing to the assembled celestials with hands flat and one foot extended forward at a 90-degree angle. Meanwhile, Yejun signaled the crowd with a respectful gesture. His bright, clear eyes, thick curly hair resembling forests and clouds, developed muscles, and strong physique were all on display. His upper body was bare, revealing a bronze hue, while he wore white tight pants below, his groin raised like a lion, ready to leap and bound at any moment, exuding boundless vitality and wildness. The dance began. Double swallows soared, white cranes danced in the spring, double dragons played with pearls, peacocks courted phoenixes, sea dragons explored the depths, tigers descended from mountains, jade rabbits nestled in burrows, eagles left their nests, willows swayed gently, buds bloomed, clouds and rain enveloped Wu Mountain, wind swept the plains, clouds veiled the green mountains, mist shrouded the valleys, long rainbows pierced the sun, and colorful clouds chased the moon. Tumbling and leaping, rising and falling, each move expressed myriad styles with boundless passion, while each posture emanated countless interpretations and vast imagination. The celestial beings watched, their souls stirred, their hearts swaying. With the dance's movements, they alternated between holding their breath in rapt attention and clapping and cheering. This dance was something found only in heaven, impossible to witness anywhere in the mortal world. After the double dance concluded, they performed sequentially, and the song and dance welcoming the celestials continued until everyone was thoroughly entertained and dispersed. The 100 Crafts Exhibition. Activities such as visiting Crane Ridge together, boating in the Lake Bay, poetry competition in the 100 Fruit Orchard, and guessing riddles and telling stories in the 7 Fragrances Garden are similar to those in the mortal world, differing only in content while sharing a similar nature, hence they are omitted. The lifestyle of the celestials in the 1,000-year world differs from that of humans in terms of environment, geography, and physical condition. Consequently, their work content and methods also differ. Presented here are some examples of their work content and methods. Respected Beijian in 7 Fragrances Garden arranged a series of welcome activities to greet Hai and Hori, one of which was the 100 Crafts exhibition. 100 Crafts refers to the demonstration of technical skills, and the workplace is where the labor is conducted. With nearly 300 celestials in 7 Fragrances Garden, the workplaces are dispersed, thus this activity is carried out separately. Let's examine a few scenes to understand what the celestials in the 1,000-year world are doing and how they go about it. Making needles. Celestials in the 1,000-year world also wear clothes. However, making clothes requires needles. In the absence of modern steel mills like on Earth, where do the needles come from? Celestial Sidwa in 7 Fragrances Garden specializes in making needles. Leading everyone to a hillside on Crane Ridge where more than 10 small needle grasses grow, Sidwa demonstrates the process. These small needle grasses are small shrubs with sparse needle prickles growing on their branches of varying lengths, which are very sharp and hard. They are similar in size and shape to the needles used by humans to sew clothes, except for the different materials. Sidwa forcefully breaks off a few of them and lightly shaves off a little from both sides of the tail of one of them with a small knife. Then, he holds the needle prickle firmly with one hand and uses a sharp tool he brought with him, resembling a thin iron rod obtained from Red Rock Gully and honed on a stone, to drill and dig the tail of the needle. After a while, the needle eye is pierced, and then he polishes the tail on the stone, making it smooth and round, thus a sewing needle was made. Sewing clothes. In the 1,000-year world, fabric comes from 2 sources, one is silk from silkworms, and the other is flower petals. The flower responsible for these petals is called celestial clothing. Its flowers are large, with 5 petals each, several times larger than those of a butterfly orchid and almost the size of a dripping guanine leaf. Because they bloom for a long time, these petals are very flexible, brightly colored, and soft like cotton, making them ideal fabric material. Silk fabrics are dyed using plant materials such as indigo, acorn, gallnut, persimmon leaves, holly leaves, chestnut shells, lotus seed husks, Salvia officinalis leaves, Japanese umbrella pine leaves, red lotus roots, yellow bark twigs, and others, rather than mineral substances such as iron or powder, mica, cinnabar, alum, etc. These materials are ground into powder and soaked to extract their pigments for dyeing silk fabrics. Different dyeing and processing techniques create different types of silk, such as silk fabric, gauze, brocade, and damask, in colors ranging from red, orange, and yellow to green, blue, and purple. There are many shades within each color family, with yellow alone having variations like goose yellow, chrysanthemum yellow, apricot yellow, egg yolk yellow, millet yellow, gold yellow, earth yellow, and brown tea, while green includes hues like emerald, bean green, leafy green, fruit green, and ink green. Lanbai, Dayao, Muqin, and Solan specialize in sewing clothes. Lanbai uses celestial clothing flower petals and wooden scissors to cut each petal according to Hai's body shape. Dayao skillfully sews the petals together with a needle. With their expertise, they quickly complete a cream-colored skirt. Similarly, Muqin and Solan sew an apricot-colored skirt for Hori using silk. Making knives, axes, and saws. Some trees in the 1,000-year world grow and decay quickly, their softwood being easily processed and useful for construction. Most houses are built using this type of wood. To shape this wood, no knives, axes, or saws are needed. Instead, the wood is shaped using ropes based on the principle of rubbing ropes against wooden boards will cut into them. Some wood is hard and requires knives, axes, or saws for processing. There are no steel mills, ironworks, or steel rolling mills in the 1,000-year world, so where do they get knives, axes, and saws? Consciousness creates reality. Just as fruits on earth are created by super-celestial beings to meet human needs, materials in the 1,000-year world are created by super-celestial beings to meet the needs of the celestials and the environmental characteristics of the 1,000-year world. About 30 kilometers from the Seven Fragrances Garden lies a canyon called Red Rock Gully. Here, there are many differently shaped stone slabs and stone strips, which are actually a special metal composite material. Materials are selected according to needs and then polished to make the necessary tools, such as knives, axes, and saws. Baxia, Kasang, Mudi, Luanshin, Jua, and Hei specialize in making tools such as knives, axes, and saws. At Red Rock Gully, Baxia selects a stone about 10 centimeters long, Kasang chooses one about half a meter long, Mudi picks one about 10 centimeters long, and Luanshin takes a long stone strip. They then enter a workshop they built earlier. Jua and Hage have already lit the stove, using hard red pine as fuel instead of coal. Baxia throws the 10 centimeter long stone into the fire, which quickly turns red. He then removes it with pliers and hammers it on an anvil about 50 times. In no time, a small knife is formed. After cooling it in water, he grinds it back and forth on a greenstone, resembling a grindstone. Finally, he embeds a wooden handle in the tail end, completing the small knife. Other tools, such as axes and saws, are made in a similar manner. Haircutting. Females in the 1,000-year world never cut their hair, it naturally falls off when it reaches waist length and then grows anew.